Good evening, folks. This is Andy Pedraza with Special Effects Academy. We're on the start of the week session in the Forex trading room for January 17th of 2021. We'll be going through our standard agenda, a look at the prior week's results, our currency strength meter for the week and month, fundamental announcements scheduled for the week, look at the major pairs on the daily charts, any setups we see in progress, and a few words in conclusion. Starting with the ledgers, we had a great week on the long-term account. We're up about 15% from where we were last week. We had a drawdown, but we had open trades, so we're pretty sure it was coming back. Indeed, it did. So we're back to an acceptable level on this account. We did open first trades opened this year on this account since we were carrying trades from last year, which were the ones that closed out at profit. We opened 3 new trades to replace the trades that did get closed out. A couple of them, at least, are re-entries. Yeah, at least 2 of them re-entries. Maybe all of them are re-entries. Anyway, we're trading into dollar weakness, seems to be the flavor of the month, and also trading into the pound Aussie recovery, seeing that the pound Aussie is the 1 pound pair that has yet to move into any sort of recovery from when the pound bottomed out right around the time that the Brexit announcement came out. On the intermediate flat, indeed, we did not close out any trades. We did get taken in late in the week. First trade open on this account this year as well. We had a pending order on the Euro JPY, which did get triggered on the 15th. And well, that's where we are right now. So instead of the 3 trades we had open, we now have 4. We're a little bit close to our margin, so I've got to be very careful with those trades. I may indeed close out one of them if it gets close to giving us a margin call. For now, I'm going to play it by ear and let them just do what they're doing and see what we can get out of these trades. On the short term, also a nice recovery week. We had 2 very good winners on the pound Swiss and the pound dollar. We did have a negative on the Euro Canadian, and we closed out the week opening a new trade on the Euro dollar, also into dollar weakness. Again, that's the flavor of the month, so we'll see how that goes. So that's our one open trade on the short term is the Euro dollar long. Notes and opportunities for improvement. I do want to point out that the Biden inauguration is this week in our capital in Washington, D.C. There's already a lot of alarm and fear mongering about rioting and protest and whatnot. The inauguration has been closed to the public, so there are roadblocks and whatnot in D.C. Probably the first time that's happened ever, where the inauguration is pretty much just for people on TV and a few of the favored who will get to attend it live. President Trump, I think, is not even attending the inauguration, also a break from tradition. He'll be doing his departure from one of the Air Force or Army bases close to the DC area. The Trump impeachment out of the House is going up to the Senate. So I think it was approved in the House, going up for a vote in the Senate. And of course, that just means that a trial will ensue if it does pass the final hurdle. The fact that somebody goes into impeachment doesn't mean they're guilty. It just means that there's enough evidence, I guess, to warrant an investigation. But still, it's a very, very odd situation we're seeing here in the U.S. political arena. The dollar continues at multi-year lows. No surprise there. There's really nothing to be happy about with the dollar. President Biden released a $1.9 trillion stimulus plan last week, which basically means that the US will print $2 trillion more, creating them out of thin air, which is all but guaranteed to continue tanking the dollar. So there is no light in the tunnel for the dollar that I can see right now, and we will continue to look for opportunities to short the dollar. Significant January events continue to be the Brexit fallout, the US election fallout, of course, and the inauguration this week, as well as COVID developments, where we have several vaccines that are starting to be applied to people. But we also have new strains of COVID coming out of the UK and one other country. I forget which one it is, but there's another strain somewhere of COVID. And of course, there's no telling whether the vaccines will work for these new strains or whether these new strains are even deadlier or less deadly or whatever you want to call it than the regular COVID strain we've been living with for close to a year now. And Bitcoin did retreat last week from its all-time high around 40,000. I think it went back down all the way to 30,000. So a 25% drop at one point. Not sure how it ended the week. Don't care. I do not trade. Actually, I shouldn't say I don't trade. I trade anything. I'll trade baseball cards. I don't invest in Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not something I would hold and see what happens simply because I don't believe in it. That doesn't mean it won't go up. It may go to a million, who knows? But I only invest in things I understand, and Bitcoin, just nobody's been able to explain why it exists, why I would want one, who's propping it up or whatever support. Thanks, but no thanks. That doesn't mean it can't be traded. If something is going up, we buy it. If it's going down, we sell it. However, with Bitcoin, there just isn't any leverage there for me to trade. I like to trade things where $1 lets me trade $50, things like that. So my money gets multiplied. With Bitcoin, there is no leverage. There's no margin. There's just nothing. So I will comment on it for anyone interested, but not for me. Relative strength meter for the week and month, if I may direct your attention to the rightmost columns. On the monthly, we can continue to see gold and silver retreat. We've now got silver 7% down from the beginning of the year and gold almost 4% down from the beginning. However, if we look at a yearly chart for silver and gold, they're both well above um, the prior year. So we're still in an uptick on both. And of course, as the situation gets troubling for the market, bullion, the metals are sure to come back at some point. For the monthly, we've got a few movers at the 1% level, a few a little bit higher, and some a little bit lower. So for the monthly, let's go from the top. The euro dollar has declined 1.32% since the beginning of the year. We have seen dollar strength returning to the market last week. So most of that was last week. Last week was a drop of 1.13%. We have the other one at one point, more than 1% is the Euro Canadian, also a significant drop last week. 0.8%, 0.80% of that is just last week. And nothing else tops 1%. The closest one was the USD Swiss, also retreating not quite to 1% level, 0.94. And USD JPY also retreating into dollar strength at 0.75%. Everything else is below that level, so we'll safely ignore it. And again, significant moves last week on the dollar pairs. I think that was the bigger move was in that arena, as for whatever reason, the market decided it was time to strengthen the dollar a little bit. We'll see what happens this week. Of course, there is high vulnerability to anything happening with the inauguration, any upsets, any social whatever, fighting, rioting, revolution, whatever happens, will of course be impacting the dollar, as well as the planned printing of almost $2 trillion right off the bat. First day in office, that is the plan, to send out more stimulus checks to people, give money to companies, and this, that, and the other, all just by turning on the printing presses. Fundamental announcements for the week. We've got a busy week. We really have a busy Wednesday. Most everything that's happening is happening on Wednesday. We've got the Bank of Canada's interest rate decision at 10 a.m. We have the unemployment rate and employment change out of Australia at 7:30 p.m. All my times in Eastern time, and at 10 p.m. we have the Bank of Japan's interest rate decision. So Wednesday is going to be a very busy day. Then to cap it off on Thursday early morning, 7:45 a.m. That's early morning for me, guys. I tend to get up around 10. 7:45 a.m. we have the interest rate decision out of the European Central Bank. So we have three interest rate decisions and one employment report, most everything on Wednesday with one straggler on Thursday. That's it for our calendar of the week, or at least what I would like to trade. So we'll see these on the calendar. With that, we move into the charts. We can see that oil is not retreating. It's making higher highs every week. It finally pierced the $50 level and is, I guess it's getting close to $60 at this point. So we are in a nice bit of an uptick on oil. Euro dollar is, as I mentioned, all the dollar pairs were moving into dollar strength, except perhaps the one least affected was the pound dollar, which was also the pound moving independently. We'll see that chart next. But euro dollar has retreated a couple of levels of support. And of course, we have to wait and see what this very busy week in the US is going to do for the dollar. Pound dollar retreated on Friday, but coming off a significant move up. So actually ended the week higher than it began. This is the one exception to the dollar pairs, the one pair that didn't end up lower than where it began the week. USDJPY all reached, well, I shouldn't say that. USDJPY also ended the week into dollar weakness, but there were significant retracements throughout. The dollar just couldn't really grab a hold of the yen. So more of a flat week than anything else. On Thursday, it did try to break out above where it started the week, but didn't quite make it. And then it just continued flat close to the bottom of the initial movement. So a little bit of a bouncy week for the USDJPY, but yeah, you can add it to the pound dollar as one of those pairs that didn't retreat, the only two. USD CAD did retreat and ended on much higher point on Friday than any time the rest of the week. But still, it's in a downtrend and the market continues to be dollar shy. We'll just have to wait and see what this new week brings us. USD Swiss, another retreat into dollar strength, but ending right at resistance. So another one where the beginning of the week is going to be very interesting. Aussie dollar, more of a flat week than anything else, but did end Friday on a low note. Kiwi dollar, same thing, mostly flat, but with the bearish slant, and ended the week much lower than where it began. Aussie Canadian, flat very near the top. We're still waiting for that breakout or that bounce down towards support. Euro Swiss, we've been ignoring for good reason. This is a sideways chart that has two sideways channels in it, a higher and a lower, and it's been living in the upper channel for quite a bit now. Right at support of that upper channel, so we'll have to see if it does continue heading down, but it's been very, very just bouncy and not worth trading for quite a while. Euro pound at an intermediate level of support. So we're seeing pound strength against the euro. If it does continue breaking support, this is going to be a good trade down, but it's far more likely, so a sideways channel, it's far more likely that we're going to see a bounce and a test to some of the upper regions. So pay attention to it. I wouldn't trade it just yet, but it's almost ready. Euro JPY giving us a long expected break of support, which took us into a trade on the intermediate towards the end of the week, actually at the end of the week on Friday. So we're waiting to see if that continues down, hopefully, since we are short, or what it is going to do. It might continue sideways for a while, but I think it's overdue for a correction on the euro versus the yen. Euro Canadian, also a more or less sideways chart that ended the week at the bottom of its most recent range. So we're waiting to see whether it pierces or bounces. Pound JPY went all the way to the top. Friday, it retreated, still ended the week higher than it began, but not by much. So it moved a lot during the week, but ultimately no net movement Monday through Friday. Aussie JPY also at the top with a bit of a retreat on Friday, but still more sideways than anything else. And we're waiting for that piercing of resistance at the top, assuming it does happen. It's just as likely that it will bounce and give us an opportunity to trade it down. Euro New Zealand at the very bottom of the chart and a very sideways week. Pound Canadian, very, very crazy, topsy-turvy. I think it ended the week mostly flat, maybe a little bit higher than where it began, but not by much. And we're still looking at direction, which it doesn't have any at this point. So another one where we have to wait. Pound Swiss almost, but not quite hitting the top and bounced on Friday, going down, but still ended the week significantly higher than where it began. This is one of the pairs where we took a nice chunk of profit, I think, on the short-term account. So we'll see if we can repeat that this week. And last but not least, Pound Oz, which I mentioned earlier, it has bottomed out. It's at the lowest or very close to the lowest it's been in quite a while. So I am expecting it to go into correction territory at some point in the near future. And we're already trading it in that direction. We're looking for it to break towards the higher levels of resistance. That's it for the charts. Setups we see in progress. Of course, the pound pairs. We're still looking at the UK and the Eurozone, figuring out what Brexit means. They've signed an agreement. It's a preliminary agreement. There's still more negotiation to happen. And of course, you see people grumbling across both sides. But there has been no significant movement in the pound for a while. I think that it was more hysteria than anything else. And we are going to see some form of pound recovery in months to come. But as always, we want to wait and see it start happening. The dollar pairs, the U.S. has the inauguration this week. We've got new varieties of COVID. We've got unrest in the streets. It promises to be a very interesting week, as well as the President Trump's impeachment proceedings right now. So keep a close eye on the dollar, trade safely, but by all means trade. The Kiwi continues to show strength against multiple currencies, so we'll continue tracking that. The Swiss pairs, they do look ready for movement. And of course, the more global turmoil there is, the more the Swiss looks attractive to investors and traders. And last but not least, the euro. It seems to be struggling while the market decides whether Brexit was good or bad for the EU, which I mentioned already. But also, I think the euro is waiting on US events. When the dollar falls, the euro does tend to get weaker there, inversely correlated. So it seems to be taking a breather right now, but that might be deceptive. It could wake up at any point in time. And that's it. Few word in conclusion, and I try to repeat this every now and then. Make sure I stress this and everybody is aware. Don't be afraid to lose. You are going to take losses in the market, no matter how good you are, unless you're not taking risks. The thing is, risk is how we pay for the opportunities. No pain, no gain. And risk is the pain we have to accept and live with as traders. Risk is what's going to give us the opportunity to make profit. Of course, you can do something low risk, but you're going to have low gains. The less risk, the less gain you're going to be exposed to. Bigger risk, bigger gains, but that also means that if you want the big wins, you're going to have to accept that sometimes you're going to be taking bigger losses. There's just no way around that. This is something so simple that it just boggles my mind when someone asks me, and they do so regularly, if I can teach them how to never lose. That's just not the way trading works. But anyway, hopefully you guys all know that, but I still like to stress it every few months. I'll bring this up and talk about it. That's going to be it for me this session. Of course, I will be sending a summary out very shortly. Any comments or questions from anyone? Okay, folks, then have a great start of week or a great rest of your weekend, whatever's left of it. And we will be talking at some point tomorrow evening when we start our trading. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care and have fun.